Affection is really important for our Salesian spirituality. It's part of the RUAH. Affection meaning love, affection meaning companionship, affection meaning brotherhood. And as Salesians of Don Bosco, we are called to be brothers. And in our house here at Battersea, I've lived for probably just on 6 years as a brother among brothers in our community, where we have shown affection towards each other, where we have prayed together in this chapel, where we have ate lunch and dinner together in the dining room, and where we've challenged each other over simple issues or big issues, because that's what families do. We question each other, we love each other, we challenge each other. Most importantly, we support each other. And that for Don Bosco was affection. He wanted his Salesians to be affectionate towards young people, but also, and more importantly, loving towards the brothers in community.
Welcome to Battersea. Here we are in southwest London, and the Salesians have been in this area for well over 100 years. But the Salesian House we're standing next to here is relatively new, very new in fact. It was only built about 7 years ago. Our Salesian community here in Battersea numbers 18, and a couple of the Salesians work in the school next door to us, a couple work in the parish. But the majority of the residents are students, young Salesians, who are here studying at the Diocesan Seminary just a few hundred yards up the road from us. And they're doing their final 4 years of study before they are ordained as Salesian priests. And now we have become a very mixed cultural, language, national group of students. So some of the students come from India, some of them come from Africa, and we even have some who come from Croatia as well. And they all work and study together, and as I say, they will be here with us for 4 years before they are ordained to the Salesian priesthood.
We just walked across a very busy Battersea bridge, and this is something that the students here at our Salesian Formation House in Battersea do every day as we enter Allen Hall, the seminary of the Westminster Diocese. Before I explain why we've come to the seminary, I just wanted to explain this. St. Thomas More, one of the English saints. St. Thomas More was the Chancellor of England during the time when Catholics in particular were being persecuted for their faith. Thomas More, as the Chancellor, as a layman, dedicated his entire life to his faith, and because of that he was taken to the Tower of London, arrested and killed. So this place where we are, this seminary, has so much history of adoration of the Blessed Sacrament from this chapel of a community of sisters, but it's also the land of a saint. And here is where so many priests are trained. So here at Allen Hall, along with the Salesians in formation from the Battersea community, are all the seminarians of the south of England. And we study here for 3 years. I've done 2 years here because I did a degree at St Mary's University beforehand. But the students here will study for 3 years a pontifical degree. So at the end of that year, at the end of those 3 years, they will receive a BA in theology from England, and they will also receive a pontifical degree from the Mater Ecclesiae College.
We are here with Father Hugh, the Rector of the Formation House in Battersea. So Father, I was meaning to ask you, it's clear that it's a richness for the Salesian province and the Salesian mission. But I would like to ask you, how do you think it benefits most the students, Salesians that are here?
It benefits the Salesian students because this is a very rich area in many different ways. So as we look round, you can see flats and those flats are occupied by families from many, many different countries. So there's a tremendous ethnic and cultural diversity, and that's the world we're growing up in, certainly in England and in other parts of Britain. And also it is a very rich city when it comes to so much culture. We have a fantastic number of museums, of galleries, and then we also have theatre and we have cinema, and these are all very much part of the formation of a young Salesian. That's the way you're prepared to be a minister in that sort of world.
And how about for yourself? What would be the benefit that you receive as a rector here?
Oh, that's a very good question, I must say, Luca. Well, I am partly a native of London. My mother was born in London, and so I feel naturally very much at home in London. I know a lot of Salesians from other parts of England don't particularly like London, but I love London and I love its richness. There's so much to see, so much to do. And also, we have a very diverse community, and most of the time I think it's true to say that we get on well.
Yes.
Like any family, we have our little ups and downs, but it's by living in that sort of situation and growing through it that we become the Salesians that Don Bosco wants us to be.
Welcome to St Mary's University, which is a state university here in the UK and also a Catholic university. It was a teachers training college and it is now a full university where the students in formation for the Salesians Don Bosco join lay students in their theology degree, and also as part of the Mater Ecclesia College of Allen Hall, they also get a pontifical degree. So at this university they get a BA in religious studies and theology and an STB, Pontifical University. As a Catholic university, at the centre of the campus is this beautiful chapel, and the chapel is dedicated to the Immaculate Conception. Altogether, for 6 years I have been a student at this university. I did my first degree as a BA, which is a state degree in theology and religious studies. I then did another year as a PGCE, which is a qualification in training as a teacher. And for the last 2 years, I've been a part of this combined university with the Mater Ecclesia College for my STB, my pontifical degree.
For a young person, maybe thinking about this vocation, considering something, but not having enough courage to respond, do you have any advice?
The very fact that you are thinking of a vocation, of maybe giving yourself to God as a Salesian or as a priest, that means that God is calling you, and you have to respond to that call. And so you need, to pray about it. I think that's so important. But then you need to talk to people, and you need to, if you're thinking about becoming a Salesian, then you need to talk to someone who is a Salesian and just get them to talk about what sort of life they've lived. I first got to know Ste really well about 7 years ago when I moved to the Salesian community here in Battersea. And over those 7 years, it has been a real joy to see him mature and to grow into the wonderful Salesian priest he will be in a few weeks' time. Ste is amazingly generous and has a very warm personality. One of the things that has always struck me about Ste is that he combines two wonderful qualities. First of all, he sees what is needed within the community context. If we run out of something, if we need something in a particular area, then Ste will notice it Very few people, in my experience, do that in community. And on top of that, he does something about it. So a lot of people who will notice things are missing, groan and moan about it, but then don't do anything. But Ste is fantastic. He always goes and remedies a situation by buying something or acquiring something. And that is a real gift, and it really helps to build up and create community. He is invaluable in that sense. He, like many Salesians, this was certainly true of me many years ago, found it very difficult to move from his teaching experience in Bolton to come back to study. If you've been teaching, you've been a relatively free agent and you can do what you like once, in fact, you've finished your duties at school. For Ste to come back here and be a student again was far from easy. Ste would be the first to admit that he's not an academic, and at times he has to really put in a lot of effort to master the various subjects he's studying. But he's done that brilliantly. He works very hard, and he has prepared himself extremely well. As I keep on saying to him, you never get back the years that you are studying theology. Once you're ordained, you're out in active ministry, and so you have to rely very heavily on all that you've acquired over your years of study. And Ste has done that, so I would have no fears about him now going out and being part of our pastoral team in Bolton and using his priestly gift in many wonderful ways. As I say, it's been a real privilege to be with him. I've spent a lot of my years with young Salesians, and it always amazes me how that they grow and mature. And that has been eminently true of Ste. He has really allowed his natural gifts and his spiritual gifts to blossom and to grow.
Father, we are here in the chapel, and in the last question, when I asked you about vocations, you said it's important to pray to God for clearance in vocation. Obviously, this prayer goes even after a person responds. So if you could tell me something about preparation in prayer for the coming ordination of our Ste.
Ste is a man of prayer, a person of prayer, and he would be the first to admit that at times he's had his struggles, and you can only overcome and grow through your struggles if you are walking with Jesus and if you're walking with Mary and the saints. And this is where we as a community gather in the morning for prayer, quiet prayer and Mass, and this is where we gather in the evening to pray evening prayer. And Steve's response to God's call is very much caught up with his life of prayer, his life as a member of the community, so community prayer, but also his own personal life of prayer. And I know, talking to Ste, prayer is right at the centre of who he is. And being ordained a priest is at times quite terrifying, but you only go forward because you know that you're not alone, that you're actually going to be walking with Jesus at your side. And I know Ste believes that very profoundly.
One of the important parts of our life as Salesians of Don Bosco is our prayer life. And in this chapel of Salesian House, Battersea, for over 5 years, I have started to understand my prayer life more. And in this chapel, as I say, for 5 years, I've sat, I've prayed, I've discerned. Sometimes I was late, sometimes I was early, but in this chapel, I've listened to the silence of God directing me and helping me on my journey to saying yes to him, to become his Salesian for young people, and now a priest for him.